make sure this is working. Okay. This gets tricky, so. Okay. Where am I clicking this, do you know? If I wanted to move this back and forth, is there a space? Okay, I might get it. Self problem solving. So hello again, everyone. My name is Ashley Perret, and I'm really excited to be here today with you at International Women's Day and here in Boston at Audible and Amazon. So thank you again, Christine, and the whole team for inviting me. So this is going to be an interactive session, both in celebrating not only how far we've come as women and women in tech, but also just particularly you, each and every one of you. So I want to share a little bit about my story to let you know how I came to be with you today. And my story really starts in human resources. So I grew up my career mostly in technology and cybersecurity, and I had my dream career. I was living and working in New York City. I was on the 52nd floor of a beautiful Manhattan high rise overlooking the whole city, and I was burnt out and felt underappreciated and really looking around wondering, is this what I have worked so hard for? And so that was kind of the beginning of my own epiphany in terms of what did I want to do with the rest of my career, and was I really making the type of impact I had set out to make? And so while I loved working in human resources, I, through my own inability at one point in my career to self advocate, I realized that if I, with the salary data that I had, the connections with the executive level, if I was still having trouble self advocating and earning equal pay, then what was everyone else going through? So my story led me back to Boston from New York, and my mission now is to really just break all the glass ceilings through career negotiation. And I'm creating an army of women and allies who want to go back into the workplace culture to really make corporate America and the world a better place for everyone, including future generations. So I founded my company, Own Your Worth, and now I not only coach women and allies, mostly in tech, through leadership programs and private coaching. But now I'm really excited to be working with organizations that have missions that really support women in business. And it's been an honor to ride this journey as an entrepreneur so far, and I'm really excited to be here. So I'll tell you a little bit more about my TEDx journey at the end. So happy International Women's Day. I love the video that you showed earlier, Christine. It's also very inspirational. Um, it is a day of celebration, but we cannot forget how far we've come and how privileged many of us are, right, to be where we are today because of what previous generations, other women have gone through on our behalf. So these are just some of the things to honor and commemorate in terms of how far we've come. There was a day when we didn't even have the right to vote as women, where we couldn't marry who we wanted to marry. And equal pay is still one of those things that we are striving for, despite legislation that's been put in place. And so one of the other things I found that I couldn't even believe, I think it was 1978, was when women could first get their credit card, their own credit card, without having or needing their husband's signature. So we today have many advantages, but there's still a long way to go. And you're all here today, so I want you to congratulate yourself for showing up and being a part of this mission and this initiative and making it a great place for you here within Amazon to grow a thriving career. And so your groups, the budgets that you get to bring in people like myself and all those events that you have going on, really take advantage of them. Because in today's talk, I really want to highlight the 3 lessons that I wish I had implemented or learned earlier in my career to help me self-advocate, to help me really grow from a place of being respected and liked versus just worrying about what everyone thought of me and following the path that I thought I should take growing up in corporate America. So I want to start by celebrating you. So today, this is all about you. We're honoring our past and all the women who came before us, but I want this to be helpful for you to go back into your workplace and back to your teams and think about what it is you do every day that not only makes Amazon special, but your career special. So, in celebrating you, I want you to turn to your neighbor and say hello if you don't know who they are. Introduce yourself to your neighbor, and I want you to share with him or her first what you wanted to be when you were growing up as a kid, and one thing you are most proud of so far in 2019. So, share with your partner.
Heads up. Try to stay a little further, even under that speaker. That's what's causing the feedback.
Okay, right here then. Thank you. Okay, so let's bring it back. Who would like to share either what they wanted to be when they were growing up or what they're most proud of this year? I'm going to try to stay put so everyone in the other offices can see me, but I'm so used to moving, so I'll hold still here. Who would like to share? I want to hear from you what you're most proud of this year so far, or even what you wanted to be when you were growing up. And this is the part where my talks and workshops go silent. And this is exactly why we're talking about self advocacy today, because it really does start with you speaking up and sharing and being brave. Yes. Hi.
Oh.
Thank you.
Both Danny and I started working for Amazon in 2019 in January, and we survived the first month of overwhelm and panic, and we have scratched the surface of what we're doing here. So we're really proud of that.
Congratulations and welcome. Who else would like to share? Right up front. Thank you.
I've been participating in a lot of, we call it activate caring and audible. Like we work with communities, with people who need our help. And I've been participating in one such project, and I feel so humbled about the whole thing, and it's a great experience.
So you feel humbled and you're
Yes,
enjoying
and
it.
that's been a great start for my 2019.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. Congratulations. Welcome to those who are just joining. We're talking about what you're proud of this year in 2019. So let's do one more. I'll wait. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm proud of working for Amazon as the first woman of my village for working in a tech company, and also from my country, from working for Amazon in building Alexa together. Thank you.
Ooh, nice. What's your country? What country?
I'm from Cameroon.
Nice. Thank you. Congratulations. So you're catching on to something here, which is we're all really hard on ourselves every single day. And when it comes to celebrating ourselves and celebrating others' wins, it can be harder to do. Our society is not necessarily built on celebration, but I'm hoping that you can give yourself a lot more credit, which will then extend out to the people on your team and morale on in the organization, and also just your love for the work and being a part of the Amazon culture. So, in order to self advocate at work, right, what I've come to learn, what I've come to see in working with my clients and working with organizations is that self advocacy, right, really what that means to me is speaking up and not only saying your truth, but saying the hard things, asking the tough questions, really giving yourself that credit in a way that maybe feels like you're bragging, but really is probably just speaking the truth. So you have to be willing to have tough conversations. And this goes with giving bad news, good news, right? Speaking up in general. If you're ready to self advocate, it might not feel good, right? But you have to get a little bit more comfortable being uncomfortable. So you might still have nerves. You might, right, still dread it. You might wake up with sweaty palms the day that you're going to go into your performance review and really ask for what you want. But that's okay, because the more you do it, the braver you'll become. And it's really what it takes to build a thriving career and to really become who you're meant to be in terms of your fullest potential. Because maybe you felt this in other companies or other jobs, but the longer you hold back and wait to speak up or to ask for what you want, the more frustrated you become in your career, the more resentful you become either at yourself or your boss. And so self advocacy really means, right, getting comfortable, being a little bit more uncomfortable, and having some frank conversations. And it takes practice. There's a lot of role playing I do with clients, a lot of scripting language, because these aren't skills that we're naturally born with. Right? We all come to work every day trying to do the best we can, and we're dealing with different cultures, different backgrounds, different languages, different time zones. There's layer upon layer of adversity every day. And so to give yourself the best chance of being seen, to make the impact that you want to make, to be recognized for your contribution, you really have to start speaking up. And what I mean by tough conversation is sometimes it just might feel uncomfortable. And I'm going to share some tools for that in a bit. So this is one of my favorite quotes, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Marianne Williamson, but she's now one of the several women candidates running for president in 2020. But I discovered her years ago based off of her multi New York Times bestseller. So she's a great author. And in terms of acknowledging your greatness, in terms of thinking about, right, self-advocating, you probably are very aware of your own faults or what you would consider your weaknesses, right? Because I love this quote because it says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. So everyone might have a different feeling or meaning for this quote, but what inspires me most about this is that we're all bright lights. We all shine in our own unique way, and many times we're dimming our own light to either try to fit in, or because we're afraid of what other people might think of us, or because there are real or perceived negative consequences if we shine bright. So I just want you to acknowledge, right, how hard it was for you to come up with something that you were proud of in just the past 3 months. Right? Are you looking to focus on your weaknesses or your strengths? And I encourage you to pick an accountability partner moving forward, and like every week, at the end of every week, share at least 2 great things that you're proud of that worked really, really well. Because the more you get into practice of celebrating your greatness or your light, it's going to make your life better and also just coming to work every day. So I want to know what holds you back from self-advocating. So whether it was within Amazon or a previous point in your life or your career, what fears or what consequences have you faced that really holds you back? So in my career, right, the catalyst for me leaving corporate America, starting my own business, and speaking out about equal pay and changing culture, it was because I asked for a raise to be paid fairly, and I was told no. And being in HR, I had been approving many raises for mostly white men who were working in the sales or engineering teams that I was managing. And they would come to me and their managers with a threat of leaving, right? They'd have another job offer in their hand. And the company, with my help, would approve 20, 30, $40,000 raises to retain them. And eventually I realized why I wasn't asking myself to be paid fairly was because I was afraid of what my boss was going to think. I was afraid the answer was going to be no. And honestly, I didn't know how to have that tough conversation. I was doing a great job. I got positive feedback all the time, but I was afraid of my own brightness, right? It was easier for me to wait to be seen versus ask to be recognized. And that, through my own emotional journey of why, when I asked, it was so hard and why it all came crashing down. Like, obviously, I'm grateful for that experience now because this is why I'm here in front of you today. But it was really an emotionally difficult time in my life to feel like because I spoke up and heard no, that I was losing, right, this dream career I had built for myself. And little did I know that was the exact answer I needed to really move to my true path. So share with me one or two things that have held you back in the past in terms of speaking up, whether it's in a team meeting, whether it's one on one, whether it's just saying, I did this as part of the project team. So, what fears or real potential consequences have held you back in the past? This is a safe space. Anyone want to share? Can anyone relate to my story? Yeah. And do we have another mic in the corner? Thank you.
Hi, my name
Hi.
is Mac. I think at least for me, the fear of not finding something better or being rejected for something that thought will be the next step.
Not finding something better in terms of a role that, like, based off of where you
Like,
are
yeah,
now.
something that will appreciate me more and pay me more in that sense.
So afraid of losing what you have, or that the grass may not be greener on the other side. Yeah, that's a big one that can hold us back.
Yeah, so I know it's very easy for me to get emotional. Even I don't mean to take the feedback personally, but sometimes like it still like shows on my face, and like from anxiety, I might start crying, and I'm afraid that people think that I'm weak versus just like angry. And so this still doesn't really hold me back, fortunately, but it's often happened to me that I speak up in a meeting and try to push back in a room full of males and male engineers. I'm not an engineer myself. Um, and just get talked over and yelled at and being told that I'm wrong about something that is my subject matter expertise. And then, the anxiety and the crying comes. And yeah, because of that, I maybe sometimes hold myself back to not do that because I'm afraid of that happening.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing. You're afraid of your emotional response to the negative things that you're experiencing. And it's interesting, right, that you're saying that you get angry and tears come, right? And so I just want to, who here has cried at work, who has felt like they wanted to cry at work? I mean, that's definitely me for sure, at least almost the whole room, right? And so it's something that almost everyone does at one point in their career, and yet we're still not accepting of ourselves having those emotions. And then how do we treat other people? Right? Whether you're a woman or a man, or you're a manager or an individual contributor, this is one way that we can all really support each other because we're human beings. We have feelings every day. Your work becomes personal and it means a lot to you. And we need to be conscious of creating safer spaces within multi teams and cross functional areas within the workplace because I would ask you, right, if are you holding back, right? When those emotions come, is it because you haven't said something, right, for the past 2 or 3 times? And that was definitely my case when I finally asked for a raise. I had held off for maybe 6 months, maybe a year, right, since my last review when I wanted to ask. And then I got a phone call from Facebook, and right, they were willing to pay me $40,000, $50,000 more after one phone call. And I was like, what the heck, man? So I finally went to my boss. I made an emotional ask, and of course, the response was emotional. So emotions are not wrong or bad. It's just making a safe place for yourself to feel them, and then also being able to clearly articulate what you're actually experiencing. So if it's anger, you can say, you might see tears, but I'm actually just really frustrated or angry right now. And being able to talk about that really makes a difference. And if you're on the other side of receiving that emotion, sometimes it just means listening or asking that person, what do you need right now? All right, coming back to this conversation to not let things escalate. So thank you. Any other fears or any other hurdles that you face that are really holding you back from self-advocating?
Kind of the counterpoint to that last point. I think I hold back both in the audience of males and females in the not wanting to come off unempathetic or too male, right? The fear of not fitting the mold, whatever that other person's mold is, and therefore creating friction, social friction.
So you're saying your fear, what holds you back is that you might not be able to express that you do understand or you do feel what the other person's feeling, or
Not being able to strike that balance.
ah. So what do you mean by balance?
Because there's this kind of a social expectation of there being binary. Women are supposed to be this way, or men are supposed to be this way, and in the business context, being feeling like you have to be a strong female by being a strong female, not by being male, but not knowing what exactly that looks like.
Yeah, so right, there's a lot of smiles behind you because like, wow, how complicated is that, right? How can you show up every day at work when you're thinking about all those different lenses and who you're supposed to be and who you're not supposed to be? So can we just give each other permission here and now today moving forward that you're all allowed to be exactly who you are, and that you might be a strong female one day and a quiet female one day and a badass male one day, and right, it's how you're showing up depending on what's happening not only in your life but your career and what you're learning and how you're growing, and really just making space for yourself first to show up authentically and make that be enough for you and enough for your coworkers. Because once we can create this safer space for ourselves to show up who we are, then it trickles down as the ripple effect to allowing other people to be accepted. Right? If you're accepting of yourself, you accept other people, despite any differences you may have. I want to just acknowledge, I don't know if you can talk in the other offices, but if anyone were to want to speak up and share in Boston 16 or 17, we'd love to hear from you. Can they talk, Christine?
Yeah, we have somebody in Boston.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I spent like the last 7 years before coming to Amazon with a direct supervisor where if I would say, oh, I need to, can we meet Monday? I want to talk to you about some stuff. And he would outright, he was supposedly very progressive, but he would outright say, you're not pregnant, are you? Or he would say to his female advisees that you can either be single or be married, but not have a boyfriend because it's too distracting. And so those sort of blatant things, I think, are more pervasive than we realize. And so if you've gone through an experience like that, like for me, it's extra hard to then adjust the expectation of what it sort of throws off your compass when it's for an extended period of time. So yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing. So you're saying that because of those comments and infractions and honestly inappropriate dealings from your manager, now you're feeling as if, right, who do you know, how do you know who you can trust, right, and what is the correct way, right, to speak up and share these things. So in those instances, right, where you really are offended, hurt, right, where it really is appropriate. I don't know the internal policy here, but just from my HR background, right, I would again encourage you to think about speaking up, and maybe not directly to that person, but in a safe way, or find someone else to speak to. But it's definitely difficult. I've heard myself being in HR, I've dealt with sexual harassment. I've been also told that because I wanted to move back to Boston, it must be because I wanted to get married and have babies, and I was the breadwinner of my relationship at the time. So it's really interesting that there's still a lot of biases in our world, but I just want to, I guess, encourage each of you to know that it's not personal, even though it feels really personal, and that's really hard to do. But it actually says a lot more about the person that's saying those comments than it does about you. And sometimes we forget that. We take it in, right? We want to learn how to work with a person who may be difficult to work with, but sometimes it might not just be possible. Did anyone else want to share online or on video? I thought I heard two. Okay, cool. So thank you everyone for sharing, and I hope this gives you a little bit of courage to continue these conversations within your teams, with your managers, with HR, with whoever it needs to be, because you do want to create this environment where self-advocacy and asking for what you need is a good place to be heard. So in terms of what I want to leave you with today, there's three lessons that I learned kind of too late in my career that I'm now sharing in terms of how you can implement this self-advocacy practice, because it really is a practice, into your career. So ultimately, I don't believe it's about your job title. Right? Self-advocacy really starts with confidence. And people think, well, oh, I'm not confident, I'll never be confident. But no one is just born as this confident human being who is comfortable in all situations. And so I want you to think about, right, when you first went, your first day of college, if you went to college, right, your first day at your very first job, the first time you dated somebody or in a relationship, right? We do firsts. We have so many firsts in our lives that often we forget that when we're faced with a new challenge, or whether it's speaking up, or whether it's getting in front of an audience, whether it's trying to learn a new technology, we forget how many firsts we've had. And confidence is really just built by taking action, by trying new things, by allowing yourself to fail, which is really just learning, and continuing on and moving forward. And again, in our culture and our society, and a lot of cultures within workplaces, right, there's this hustle fast and succeed, succeed, succeed. But what does that really mean? Right, so I want to encourage you to think about how can you be more confident, right? Find an image that feels confident to you, or what evokes confidence in you? What evokes you being a badass at work, and not only standing up for yourself and what you believe in, but others as well. So I really want to encourage you to, no matter your title or your level within the organization, how you show up in your own skin, how you show up in terms of what you've learned and what you'd like to learn on a daily basis really makes an impact in how you're going to be able to grow your career. Even if you're scared, right? Even no matter how many times I speak in front of an audience, I still get nerves before. So don't let that fear hold you back from building confidence in a place that you want to build confidence. Right? Someone once told me in terms of feedback, um, being in HR, I needed to, use Excel spreadsheets all the time and pivot tables, and it was something that drained me of energy. I do not like Excel. This is not my cup of tea. It's not my expertise, and I could have taken classes and spent a lot of time trying to increase my Excel skills, but I decided, you know what? I don't want to be confident in Excel. It's not helpful to me. I'm going to make it work the best I can. I can still use data and figure out how to talk about numbers without learning this skill set. And so instead, I focused on public speaking, I focused on coaching, I focused on building relationships with people and mediating tough conversations. So I want you to think about, how do you want to grow your career, and where do you want to be more confident? Right, we're 3 months into a new year. Right, by this time next year, where do you want to be in your life or your career? Where do you want to feel more confident? And I encourage you to start today just by taking small steps every day. And the second lesson is really be open to giving positive and constructive feedback. I do a whole workshop just on giving and receiving feedback because this is a deep one. But for today, I really want you to think about, right, the next time you go into a meeting with your boss, whether it's a performance review or if you have a meeting with one of your employees, just ask that person, do they want to hear the bad news or the good news first? Because how many of you would prefer, right, having the bad news handed to you when you're asked, hey, I have bad news and good news, what do you want to hear? Most people choose, right, the bad news to get it out of the way. So I want you to think about giving feedback in terms of, hey, let's talk about this. I want to talk about what worked really, really well coming from this meeting and what were one or two things that we could work on moving forward. Right? Asking somebody, are you open to receiving feedback right now about the meeting we just had? This is life changing. Instead of just avoiding feedback altogether or sending it through a chat message and hoping that they read it at some point. But this is just about being bolder in terms of yourself, allowing yourself to give positive and constructive feedback in a way that is not confrontational, but instead just communication, conversational. Because the goal is to make it a better project or meeting for everybody involved. And something that I'm hugely passionate about is creating a culture of celebration. And that's how we started this today, just really giving yourself credit, but also, right, share with your peers and your managers, like, hey, thanks, that was really great today. Or wow, I'm really impressed you did this. Because in any human relationship, it actually takes 5 positive interactions to cancel out 1 negative interaction. So that means starting today, you need to start giving 4 to 5 positive compliments to all of your peers before you can tell anyone about the constructive feedback that you're thinking of already. So I encourage you to really start thinking about a culture of celebration, and it can just be a thank you. It can just be like, hey, thanks for coming to the meeting on time today. That's a big deal, right? So just say thank you, and you're going to start being known for someone who not only gives great feedback, but also receives great feedback. And that is a tool and a skill that you will need for the rest of your career. Not only being able to give feedback, but being someone who can take it in, doesn't have to respond right away, right, and decides what they want to do with it. So I encourage you to start your culture of celebration today. And the last lesson, and maybe it's the most important one for me and definitely connects to owning your worth, which is so much more than just about your paycheck. It's really about your inherent worthiness as a human being, your value that you bring to your organization, how you contribute, how you make a difference. Like, I really encourage each and every one of you to get clear about what it is you want, right? Today, tomorrow, 1 year from now, right? And just start asking for what you need to grow your career, asking for what you need to succeed. Right? Working hard and keeping your head down, unfortunately, is not enough in a world when the days just fly by and there's so many things going on. And this is where self-advocacy is really important, because giving yourself credit and making sure that other people are aware is really key. Because when you do ask for what you want, whether it's a promotion, more responsibility, an opportunity to get more involved in these initiatives, flexibility, time off from work for maternity or paternity leave. Right? You want to be able to have this case already built to show them how much you're a rock star. But if you don't ask, right, the answer will always be no. So the answer that you need is always on the other side of your ask. Right? For me, I was so afraid of getting a no that I waited so long that it was terrible. It was just as I feared. But I still got the answer I needed. I decided, hey, this place is not for me anymore. This career may not even be for me anymore. So although I didn't get the answer I thought I wanted, it was definitely the answer I needed. And so when you start speaking up and asking for what you want, and that includes help and support, you're going to start seeing how much more confident you show up at work and how much easier it is to be respected versus just liked. And that was something I heard from a male mentor early in my career. And he told me, being in HR, actually, you really need to work on being more respected versus liked. I don't really know what exactly he meant by that, but what I internalized was, you know what? If I cannot please everyone, no one can please everyone. But as long as I can be respected for trying really hard, for doing my best, for making an impact, then that's enough for me. So I really encourage all of you to think about what it is you want, not only for your own career, but how it's going to make the company a better place, the products you're working on a better product. And it really creates room for innovation and imagination and really just fun. So I truly believe that self-advocacy breaks the glass ceiling. You speaking up, you not accepting, right, inappropriate comments at work, you taking time off, asking for help, whatever that might mean for you. This is really going to allow all those numbers that Christine showed earlier, right? Allow more people to be more women of color at the seats, right? At positions of power to really change culture and impact and affect our world. So I want to thank you today and would love for you to connect with me. I gave a TEDx talk here in Boston in November. It's called How to Have Your Cake and Negotiate Too. I tell a little bit more about my story and my rise and fall from corporate America. So please feel free to check it out and connect with me online. I'll be here during the happy hour, so I'd love to hear from you, connect with you, answer any questions you might have if you want to talk privately. So happy International Women's Day. Congratulate yourself for showing up and being here and for working in tech and really paving the way for so many more people to come. So thank you very much for having me, and I'll be around. So it's happy hour time now, I believe, right? Yeah, cool.
All right. Thank you so much, Ashley. That was a great talk. Really glad we got to hear from you today. Just some logistic announcements for everyone in Boss 11. So we have a sign-in sheet over here. Make sure you do that. That's how you get a phone tool icon, as well as help us out with attendance numbers. We're also collecting phone tool icons from Boss 16 and 17. If there's anyone on the live stream that is not in one of the offices, feel free to reach out to me about that. We also have over here, we have our Balance for Better wall to basically brainstorm how you're going to take any of these actions, whether self-advocacy or improving the workplace. And then over here, we have our resources as well as a lot of swag. And then we have food over here. So there is food, at least in Boss 16, so I hope you enjoyed that. And I'll be giving all these resources over to the remote offices later. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Happy International Women's Day, and looking forward to connecting during happy hour. Thanks, everyone, for joining on the live stream. Bye.